What is up, NXT Youth? Hey, it's Pastor Paige, and I'm so excited to be joining you for our Wednesday night services. We miss you guys like crazy, and I know that you probably keep hearing that over and over and over again because we've been saying that in every video, but we really do miss you guys. We think of you guys often. We're praying for you and your family. Please reach out to us if you have a prayer request. Please be reaching out to your life group leaders and your crew chiefs and all of those people that you connect with at church. I know that they would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. I've jumped on a few Zoom calls as well. And so if you want me to join one of your Zoom calls or your house party or your Netflix movie experience, hey, I would love to do that. Reach out, let your leader know so they can get in contact with me, or send me a message on Insta as well. And I will do my best to be there or pop in and say hi. I want to hear some stories of just life for you, and just be able to connect because I'm missing that. So the first time in a long time, I lived by myself. So I purchased a condo in February, and my first home, I did that a few weeks before junior high breakaway. I didn't have a lot of time to unpack boxes. I did all the essential stuff that I needed for day to day. And so during quarantine, that's really been something that has been a highlight for me personally, is just unpacking everything. I love decorating, I love decor, but I also love people. So having to live alone has been difficult in this season. I've had to be super intentional about reaching out to family and friends, just staying connected and making sure to reach out to them during this time where I'm an extrovert and I love people and I love being around people, and where it is easy for me to be home, like people will make fun of me. Hey, do you want to come do this? Do you want to come hang out? And a lot of the times my response is, no, but you can come over. I would love to host you. I would love to cook a meal for you. I would love to watch a TV show or movie with you. I'd love to play a game with you. And so that has been super difficult for me personally, because I just love social interaction for sure. And so being home for the first time alone with no roommates, you can only imagine this has been a super interesting season. And so I just have been finding certain things to be difficult in this season. Well, let me just show you. Hey, could someone get me a drink from the fridge, please? Hello? It's just me. That means I gotta pause my show. I'm all comfy. Why is it gonna be so cold in here? I'm freezing. Hey Alexa, turn up the heat. Alexa. Wait a second. I don't have an Alexa. All right. Who did it? Who left an empty toilet paper roll? I'm upset. So that literally has been my last couple weeks. Last week we started a new series called Home Alone, and I for sure can relate because I am literally home alone. And one of the ways in this series that we want to encourage you is to have practical faith during this time of quarantine. What does that look like? How can we do that as believers? How can we lean into God and our faith during this season? And I know that in this season, that probably brings about a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. It's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to have those emotions, but we're not called to sit in those emotions, because when we think about emotions and when we think about feelings, it can do a lot to us, right? They can grab a hold of us. They can isolate us. They can get us to be overthinking. They can cause us to doubt our faith. So today I want to dive into a feeling that maybe some of you are facing during this time, and that is loneliness. And as we are facing many emotions, what we can tend to do is to put those emotions into the driver's seat of our lives during this time. And we let them be the thing that is leading and guiding us, which affects how we respond and how we react and the way that we're thinking. And the Bible even tells us in Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Proverbs 28:26 says, whoever trusts in his own mind is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom will be delivered. And so we are not called in this season to be led by our emotions, but we are called to be led by God. So why would God allow me and allow you to experience solitude? You know, during this season, I believe when we are feeling these emotions or feeling loneliness, it is an opportunity for God to do something in and through us in this season. And so the first one is this, is that God wants to communicate with us. Sometimes God has us in the spot of solitude because he wants to communicate with us. You know, he knows that when we are constantly surrounded by the distractions and the noise in our life, that it can be very difficult to hear and to know his voice. And so these moments are an opportunity for us to lean into God and get to know him in a greater way and to know his voice. One of my mentors says it this way: loneliness is God's cry for intimacy. Meaning that God wants you to spend time with him. And right now is an opportunity where a lot of distractions have been peeled away from our lives and have been removed, and that we have the opportunity to do just that, to listen to and hear for God's voice and to communicate with him. And in this season, I think we can all probably say that God is opening our eyes on just how much we have depended on other things in our lives instead of him. You know, maybe it's you have found yourself going, man, I depend on people a lot, and they actually speak louder to me than God does. And this is an opportunity for you to lean in. Maybe there's other distractions that have taken the place, sports, a ton of homework, you know, you name it. There's multiple things. And God's going, man, this is an opportunity for you to set that down and to communicate with me, spend some time with me. And I actually want to speak over you and strengthen you in this season. And I don't know about you, but I'm finding that I am realizing even on a greater level that nothing can satisfy me the way that God can. In these moments that I'm having to lean in and experience him and know him in a greater way. And he is giving me strength. He is giving me insight. He is speaking to me, and he wants to speak to you. Isaiah 58:11 actually says this: the Lord will always lead you, satisfy you in a parched land, and strengthen your bones. You will be like a watered garden and like a spring whose water never runs dry. The Lord wants to do that in and through you today. And that can happen when we pause to be in his presence, and we pause to communicate with him, when we pause to spend time with him in prayer and in his word, and even just having moments of silence with him. The greatest times with God come during times of solitude. Here's a couple examples. Moses, right before God gave him the plans for the tabernacle and the Old Testament law, he called Moses to a place of solitude for 40 days on top of a mountain. David, King David, some of the Psalms that David wrote were written from the inside of a cave when he was running from King Saul. Moments where he was all alone and by himself. And so this week I want to encourage you to spend some time with God to strengthen you by spending some time in his presence. During this season of loneliness and emotions, he wants to communicate to you. Something else that God can do in this season of emotions and loneliness is that sometimes when we're experiencing solitude, it can expose our level of faith. That this is a time that we can pause and we can examine our lives. And if we were to pause and do that today and next to youth, what would it reveal about your faith? In Job 1, Satan told God this: if you take everything away from him, he will curse you to your face. And so Job was under a divine test allowed by God to expose kind of the sincerity of his faith, his level of faith. and he didn't even know it, And so what can we do when we are facing loneliness? It can reveal a lot about us. And so this is our opportunity to stop and examine that and kind of go, man, how can I lean into my faith more? How can I lean into God more and in a greater way in this season? Because a person's true character and faith is exposed in solitude. The enemy would love to come and cloud your mind and actually fill it with fear and doubt in this season. And can I tell you that those feelings are only going to cause us to question even more. And when we don't stop to go, man, let me reveal this about myself, it's going to leave us even more lonely than when we started. And I don't know what it does. It also leaves us without hope. But with God, we are not without hope, right? We have hope when we lean into our faith and we lean into God in these moments. And so as we stop to examine and kind of reveal where our level of faith is and how much we are trusting God, is this an opportunity where you will become angry with God? Will you use an old habit to escape reality and what you actually are having to face in this season? Will you isolate yourself from your family and lock yourself in your room? Maybe many of you are like, man, because I'm feeling lonely, I don't even want to be around people. And it only fuels that loneliness even more. Will you let go of that person you're using as a time filler, as a distraction, when you know they are not who God has for you? Do you find yourself going to old habits and things that you felt like you had overcome, and now you're turning back to those things in this season of loneliness? Will you allow fear to take over or remind yourself that God is in control and that you can trust him? Isaiah 41:10 says this: do not yield to fear, meaning don't give in to fear, for I am always near. Never turn your gaze from me, and I am your faithful God, for I am your faithful God. I will infuse you with my strength and help you in every situation. I will hold you firmly with my victorious right hand. We can lean into God. We can trust him today. He is a faithful God. And this is an opportunity for us to lean in to God. The next thing that God can do in this season of loneliness and emotions is that he can prepare us. Sometimes God allows his children to experience solitude when he is preparing them for something. Again, before God used Moses to lead the Jews out of the Egyptian slavery, he separated him for 40 years on the backside of a desert. Before God prompted Joseph, he separated him from his family for 13 years. Now, I hope our season isn't that long, and I know that it won't be, but God may be preparing you and I for something great on the other side of this season of loneliness and what we may be facing. And so what things, words of wisdom and strength are you receiving yesterday, today, and tomorrow that are preparing you for even after quarantine? Again, are you going to have a greater level of faith? So what can we do as we are experiencing loneliness and some emotions during this season? There's just 3 key things that I really want to focus on. The first one is this: reach up. God makes a promise to us in James 4:8, and when he says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. When you are experiencing loneliness, take the opportunity to really invest into your relationship with God. We talked about that, right? He wants to communicate with you. He wants to speak to you. He wants to give you life and health in this moment. And so I'm convinced that God will speak to you in ways in this season and in this opportunity that he may not choose to when you're surrounded by lots of people and lots of noise. So there's something that God wants to speak over you today that is new and just for you and exactly what you need in this time. The second one is this: reach in. When you're feeling lonely, that's the time for you to pause and reflect. That time to examine ourselves. Who do you want to be? What are your spiritual gifts? What are your goals? What are some things that you love to do and that maybe you haven't had time to do yet? now that we're in this opportunity where we have more time than ever, you can pause and you can do that, NXT youth. Let's not just wait around to the day this is over and miss an opportunity to strengthen our faith and grow in this season. And man, I just got really pumped as I was writing this last night, because I was like, man, let's come out of this better. And that doesn't mean do more, but it is going, hey, reach within and do some examining and let God speak to you. Let's not just barely make it through this, but let's grow through this. Let's thrive through this. Let's be filled with God, with his hope and his peace and his love. You know, what could we hear from God as we set down distractions and even have moments of silence with him? How can you reach in and identify where you're at? What questions can you ask yourself to move forward with God? Maybe some of you today are going, man, I don't feel like I'm in a good place. That's okay. We're all on a journey of knowing God and getting to know him. And wherever you're at, start there. Reach within and go, man, let me identify where I'm at with God and how I can move forward. The next one is this: reach out. Many people sometimes are alone by choice. In other words, God has blessed them with a community of people, but their pride is too strong to reach out. You know, in this season, I've had to be super intentional about reaching out to those around me. And sometimes in my brain and in my mind and in my heart, you know, I'm tempted to go, no, I don't want to bother that person. No, I'm not going to reach out. But they have time, and God wants me to still be connected to people in this season. And so we've got to be reaching out to those around us. Sometimes people are too proud to admit that they are lonely, so they just remain lonely. Maybe you have been putting on a good face in this season and you really could use some encouragement. Please reach out to a leader. Please reach out to a staff member. Even reach out to a family member that is at home just to talk to. Again, I know many of you in this season of loneliness might want to go in your room and put your headphones on and shut the door. But I just want to encourage you that if your family's playing games, if they're watching a movie together, and if they're doing activities together, be with your family. Even if you may not always want to, but that can help in this season by engaging with other people and opening up and reaching out to that. Don't suffer in silence. We're all facing circumstances that are out of our control, and we don't have to manage them by ourselves. Like, you are not alone. You don't have to do it on your own. But loneliness is universal. You know, everyone faces loneliness, and you'd be surprised at how many people will understand your feelings and understand where you're coming from in this time, because we as humans, we will experience it. And so pay attention to how God may want to use this in your season in your life. He may want you to even use you to reach out to others that are facing the same difficulties in this season. So reach up, reach in, and reach out to those around you, NXT youth. And God, he takes loneliness seriously. Just know that. In fact, he promises to come near to us and give us true community, family, and contentment in this season. And that's exactly what we need. We need to know that people are surrounding us, that people are family, and that whatever we're facing, that he sees us and he hears us and he knows us. And Jesus says that in his physical absence, he will be spiritually present with followers in a very real way. God wants to communicate with you and be with you. So how can you lean in to him today, NXTJ High? Let this be a time where we strengthen our faith, we communicate, we examine, and we just are prepared for what God has for us. We love you so much. We're thankful for you. And connect with your life group leaders after this. They have questions, they have discussions that are ready and prepared for you. And so we love you, and we hope that you have the best day.